Welcome to Muscles and Magic the Gathering podcast. And today there was an absolutely massive, mind-shattering, earth-destroying unbanned announcement from Wizards. Okay, I completely oversold that. That is completely overblown. It was not. You like how I sold that though, Joe?
Yeah. That made it. That was what I was hoping that we were going to be able to say today.
That's what I was hoping for too.
Yeah.
And it turns out that we got 5 what I consider to be really playing cards unbanned. Not much happened at all. That's the unbanned news. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to go over the 5 cards that were unbanned, what they do, and why they honestly, they should have been unbanned. Like these 5 cards did deserve 100% to be unbanned. But the big news today is that there was a bunch of game changers added. And I think that's flying under the radar. And I think that's going to change the game and the bracket system a lot more than these unbans, if you will. So we're going to get to that, so stay tuned. We're probably going to have to do 9 podcasts on all these new game changers that were added, to tell you the truth. But we're going to start with the unbans. And the first card that was unbanned was something, Joe, called Panoptic Mirror. It costs 5 mana to bring out. It's got imprint. You may remove an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost X in your hand from the game. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may copy an imprinted instant or sorcery card and pay the copy without paying its mana cost. So basically, you know what this does, Joe? You have an instant, maybe it's a removal spell, maybe it's an extra turn spell. You imprint it in this card, and basically you get to use a copy of that card every turn for the rest of the game. So this is a fairly powerful card. But the reason I say it's fairly tame, you can kind of do this with an Isochron Scepter. You can chain extra turns together. That's going to be the big concern with this card. People just chaining extra turns over and over and over again. But you can already do that with all kinds of cards in the Magic universe. So this, to me, honestly, it doesn't move the needle at all. And here's the lens I'm looking through, right? Do I want to go pick up a copy of this card right now to put in my decks? And I don't think this makes any of my decks that much more powerful. Like I might put this in 1 or 2 of them, but this isn't really moving the needle for me.
Well, and to your point, this is one of those cards that, like, why was this one banned, but the other cards that effectively do the same thing weren't? And so to rectify that, either all the cards with this kind of mechanic should be banned or none of them should be banned.
And again, Isochron Scepter, people have been using it for years. Now, this adds the sorcery element to it, but instants are usually better, in my opinion, than sorceries anyway. So it just doesn't... Yeah, to your point, this should have been unbanned. So good job on this, Wizards. The next one up, very powerful card. It's called Gifts Ungiven. You could make the argument this is the most powerful one on the list that was unbanned. You pay 4 mana, and then you search your library for up to 4 cards with different names, reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand. So basically how you would use this, you'd pull the 4 most powerful cards from your deck, and then I give the choice to you, Joe. Which 2 do you want gone? Which 2 are you giving me? It's a lose-lose situation for you, and I'm going to win because I'm getting some of my most powerful cards, right? Yeah. There is a card called Intuition that does almost the exact same thing that's already legal, so they needed to make this legal. To your point earlier, either ban all the cards that do it or none of it. So this doesn't move the needle that much. The one thing I do like about this is I will use this in a bunch of my decks, and it's a much less expensive purchase than Intuition. Intuition runs you a pretty dollar. This, not so much, Joe. Like you can get a copy of this.
Now it's unbanned. Maybe the price has changed.
It might go up, but I want to say you can get a copy of this from Double Masters. That's a version we have on the screen right now for under $30. Whereas like Intuition, you're looking at a lot more. I actually want to look that up right now. So an Intuition, Joe, to put that in perspective, goes for, and I just pulled up Card Kingdom right here, but you could check TCG or you could check wherever Cool Stuff Inc. Man, an Intuition goes for $206.
Yeah, you got to have some dedication.
Yeah, and Intuition says, search your library for any 3 cards and reveal them to target opponent. he or she chooses one, put that card into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So you make the argument this might be a little more powerful. Like, I don't know. But again, it's a lot less expensive. So again, unban it. We already have intuition. This one deserves to be on the unbanned list. Next up, we've got Coalition Victory. I'm not a fan of this card. I thought this should have been unbanned years ago, if you will. It's kind of gimmicky. It costs you 8 mana to bring out, but you need one of each color. And then you win the game if you control a land of each basic type and creature of each color. So, Joe, you got to have a lot of stuff in play to make this card work for you. You need an island, you need a swamp, you need a forest, and you need all the creatures. And so, or you have your commander out, and then you have one of each land.
Yeah.
My opinion has always been, if you pay 8 mana for a single card, you deserve to win the game. Like think we talked before, and you can get all the past episodes of this all over this YouTube channel, but we talk about your elf deck, and one of your primary win conditions in that is the Crater of Behemoth.
Yep.
If you build up all your elves and then you bring out that card, you deserve to win. You're not doing that on turn 1. You're not doing it on turn 2. You had a dedicated, like, you're a D&D game master. You had a dedicated strategy. You told the story. You built up your elves. You went through the dungeons, like whatever. And then you played that final card. You deserve to win if you did the setup for this. That's my opinion. Yeah. Should have been unbanned. I probably won't play with this at all. It's a super gimmicky card.
Well, I think that's exactly the thing. Like, if I'm playing a game against somebody and they're just throwing a bunch of stuff out on the board, but I'm under the assumption that we're going to play normal rules where I got to win by, health. And then all of a sudden they flop this card out. It's going to be like, wah, wah, wah. Like, if I know somebody has this in their deck, like, it doesn't really give them an advantage because I can just keep killing their white creatures.
You can remove it on site. You can deal with it, but it is kind of like I look at it as like a gimmicky card. And I'm with you. Like, there are all kinds of different ways to win in Magic. Like what's the card I told you to order? The Felidar Sovereign.
Yeah.
Right? Where if you get 40 life, you win the game. That's kind of like, well, okay, it's kind of a cool win condition, but you can deal with it. And by the way, if there's a card that allows you to win with 40 life, this should be legal too. Yeah. So there we go. Coalition Victory. The next one up, Sway the Stars. A massive 10 mana to cast. And then each player shuffles his or her hand, graveyard, and permanents he or she owns into his or her library. Each player's life total becomes 7. So again, a super gimmicky card, and it's not asymmetric. I talk about this all the time. It doesn't make your life total just 7. It puts mine at 7 too. So really it's like, hey, we're going to restart the whole game. We all have 7 life.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know if that's an advantage for you, disadvantage. It's kind of like a fun way to play in a game, a different win con. But again, for a massive casting cost, I talk to you about this all the time, the mana value of the deck. I rarely use, cards that have a massive casting cost. I won't ever put this in my deck. So yeah, it should have been unbanned. All right, and the last one, Braids, Cabal Minion.
This one, before you even start, this one needed to be unbanned because I love this picture. That's 100% the reason this needs to be in the game.
Me too. And Braids is an iconic character. This is something people love playing with. This card is wild. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. I actually think that's a lot of fun. I like different games. You said earlier, like playing beyond of gaining life and losing life and but I do actually I push back on that a bit. Maybe I kind of like stuff like this. It introduces chaos.
I think it's that social contract, right? Like, who are you playing with? And if I'm playing with, against the same guy and the same commander all the time, like, it's going to get a little bit stale. Eventually we know each other's hand well enough that we can play against it. So throwing something like this into your deck and winning on that that could be kind of fun.
It can be spicy, but what did I teach you when we were first building your elf deck? You need a lot of removal. You got to be able to get rid of creatures. Like an Assassin's Trophy takes care of this on site. So it's just not that people use the term oppressive, and I hate that term because we're here to play a game, Joe. Like, just because you're winning on turn 2 doesn't make it oppressive. It just means we play a lot more games in our 2-hour game night, right? Or just because you win by having 90 elves and a Craterhoof Behemoth. Like, I don't look at that as more oppressive or nasty as this. So I think given the state of Commander, this should have come off. But I will say, in fairness, I think everything should have been unbanned.
Mm-hmm.
There was some talk in the committee about unbanning Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, Dockside. Actually, there wasn't talk at all. People just did not want to touch it. So those were 3 that I thought for sure were coming off the unbanned list. I've actually, you know this, I've been buying a lot of the banned cards up lately. I spent my entire paycheck on them. I got a bunch of Tolarian Academies. I think I ordered 13 copies of Tinker the other day.
Yeah,
I got Biorhythms. I got Balances. Now, it actually works out good. I'm glad this was the push I needed because I do play with all the banned cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like that rule 0 type thing. And what it comes down to, and this is actually a great segue into our next section, I do think that as long as you're balanced out with the people that you're playing, it's not a big deal. Like, if you have, for example, Joe, you have your elf deck and I bring my elf deck and I have 10 banned cards and you have no banned cards, that's probably not going to be a fun game for you.
Yeah. Or it could be a hilarious game for me.
Yeah, right? One banned card, probably not going to swing the balance that much. The more you get, kind of like Gamechangers, you could almost look at like a banned card as like a super game changer, if you will, from that kind of respect. But I'm of the belief that all cards should be unbanned. You should rule 0 everything. And then you just decide how we want to play. Joe, like when you have your Dungeons and Dragons nights, right? And by the way, Joe has one of the best Dungeons and Dragons channels on YouTube. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. Dungeons and Dragons, essentially for beginners, is what you're putting out. You want to host your first game night.
New players, new DMs.
It is the place for you. And there's a lot of synergy between Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. They're actually owned by the same parent company. So surprise, surprise, there are some Dungeons and Dragons sets in the Magic the Gathering universe. But I digress. The big thing you talk about is session 0, right?
Yeah.
Where we sit down and we discuss, what does this game look like? Are there graphic depictions of violence? Are there no depictions of violence? Is this PG? Is this rated R? Or you're telling me, I mean, some of these Dungeons and Dragons things, they can get X-rated a little
wild.
bit.
Yeah.
Some of the games get wild, right? So you sit down and you have that session 0 talk. That's all the bracket system and the band list and that is trying to do, is make it so you and I can sit down and have an enjoyable experience and we can go away feeling good without feeling like someone cheated, someone had an unfair advantage. No one wants to play a game where that's rigged, where you absolutely can't win. Like, we want some semblance.
Again, if you're going into like a tournament, it makes sense. We have to have like a realistic expectation of like what the winner of this tournament is going to look like. You know, if you pull out a banned card in a tournament where nobody else had banned cards, like, that's a bad luck, and people are going to be upset.
But I will also tell you this: I have decks with a lot of banned cards. I have decks with no banned cards, and sometimes the decks, because I played my decks enough and I've goldfished enough, and I played with like my kids enough. Like, sometimes the decks with the banned cards lose. Sometimes like the lower level one wins. Like, it's not an always or never type situation. So I think everything should have been unbanned. I don't want to criticize Wizards because I love them and they've added so much to my life and I'm always a pro Wizards person. So I do think everything should have been unbanned. However, I will give them credit and the committee credit. They're clearly moving very slow. And they're clearly invested in the health and well-being of the game. And we're going to blow stuff up, that we're going to make a million changes. That's what I would do. I'm the type of person that I go bananas. In my fight career, Joe, in the UFC, I was either losing in the first minute or like I was winning in the first minute. I rarely had stuff go long. I am like, we're throwing punches, we're asking questions later, we're going bananas. You know me, I will call you up on a cup. I'm like, I'm buying all these things today. And you're like, Bobby, pump the brakes on this a little bit, like, slow down. That's me. I do understand the logic of let's unban the 5 safest cards we can find. This isn't going to change much.
Yeah.
Let's unban these 5 cards. Like we talked about, none of these cards. Like, let me ask you, are you now going to go to the internet and get a Braids Cabal minion for your elf deck or for your front row? The answer is probably not. I don't. You might get a Gifts Ungiven for your Otter deck, but I doubt it. A Panoptic Mirror, you might be like, yeah, I can see how that's useful. My point is these are 5 fairly safe unbans from Magic.
Well, and I think there's another
your toe in the unban. Let's unban these 5, the safest ones, and see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think there's another. You brought up session 0 for playing D&D, and I think, like you said, the bracket system, the band list, the Gamechangers are all kind of a way to have that conversation without needing to have it. But even in D&D, in the actual manuals, there is a reminder in the introduction of the book that the rules are not the be all end all. Like, exactly, they're a good system, and they're there for a reason because we're trying to play this particular game. But the rules aren't an obstacle for you to overcome. And so, yeah, there's a banned list. But if I'm sitting here with a friend and we're saying, you know what, let's play all the banned cards, it's not like some Wizards of the Coast ninjas are going to come rappelling down from the ceiling. Yeah,
like someone's going to get you, right?
Competition rules. So
here it is.
You just have to decide like who you're playing with and have that conversation. It's not that much to ask. Before you start shuffling your deck, say, well, maybe I should take this card out and kind of level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, I picture you and me and like JP and like whoever playing on like a Friday night, and I play a banned card, and then a portal opens up, and Gandalf the Grey comes out. You shall not play banned cards.
The time
the shadow realm. Like, come on, right? But anyway, they picked 5 really safe unbans. Dip your toe in. They did talk about if one card's likely to get unbanned, it's going to be Jeweled Lotus, but they're not going to touch it now. They're not going to unban anything for the rest of the year. They're going to sit and see how this all shakes out, which is actually a fairly smart strategy too.
Yeah.
You introduce the bracket system
kind of approach. We're not trying to, dramatically change the game at this point, which I get.
We introduced the bracket system. We got a bunch of feedback. We're still seeing how it works. Let's try to figure this out as time goes on. So very conservative. So well done on that, Wizards. I wish all my cards would get a ban, but again, the session 0 thing, the rule 0 thing, it doesn't really affect my gameplay style or my collectability at all. Apart from the fact, I was hoping that if stuff got unbanned, my collection would shoot through the roof. But I don't own. I mean, you know me. I have 54 Commander decks right now. I take a lot of pride in building powerhouse decks. I don't own a lot of these cards that got unbanned anyway, so that tells you where I am on that. But the big news of the day, Joe, they added a bunch of cards to Gamechangers, and they delisted some cards from Gamechangers. So the first 2 they delisted, Joe, we don't have to show them on the screen, but Trouble in Pairs, and I'm going to read to you from the Wizards website, okay? The first card being delisted is Trouble in Pairs. This card has certainly emerged as a standout card since it was released a year ago. Well, it can draw a lot of cards. It's on par with some cards that are not on the list. The general feeling is this is just slightly under the bar for Gamechangers. So they delisted that. And then they delisted Trinisphere. This card is not the most fun card to play against. No denying that. I don't like that term. Like, what's fun to play against? What's not fun to play against?
That's up to me and you at the table, right?
Who decides that, right? But it tends to be stronger at the higher power levels, like optimized bracket 4 and 5. There are cards on the level of unfun stacks pieces like Sphere of Resistance, Rule of Law, and Nethervoid that aren't on the Gamechangers list. So they basically took it off. Fair. Now they added a bunch to the Gamechangers list, and it's actually funny because if you go look at some of our old podcasts, I've told you before, these are like Gamechangers, right? That you should add these cards to your list. So we're going to go over them now. The first one is Teferi's Protection. This is a huge spell for people, and it says until your next turn, we got kind of the dual screen. I'm looking at my computer, you're looking on your iPad, so we're working this together. But Joe, I'm actually going to have you read these because it's right in front of you. So
sure. So until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out.
All right. So you go to play a Craterhoof Behemoth. This just decimates that. So this is an answer to a lot of massive game-changing type cards. So yes, this should have been a game changer from the start. And yes, add it to the list. Extremely powerful card. Next up.
So we've got Narset, Partner of Veils, and then they're doing them kind of in tandem. And Orcish Bowmasters.
Okay, both great cards, right? The Narset, Partner of Veils, each opponent can't draw a card more than each turn, I think is what it says, beyond their first. Is that correct?
Yeah, they can't draw more than one card each turn.
Okay, so it shuts down card draw. Super powerful card. Someone wants to play with the One Ring, this shuts them right down. And then Orcish Bowmasters, another super powerful card.
Yep, Flash, when the Orcish Bowmaster enters the battlefield and whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, Orcish Bowmaster deals 1 damage to any target, and then amass Orcs 1.
Okay, so here's how I look at Game Changers, Joe, how I kind of like rationalize this. For a card for me to be a game changer, I would put it in any deck I'm going to build ever.
Sure.
So Teferi's Protection, yes. If I have a white deck, if I have a Teferi's Protection, it's going in, right?
Yep.
You're working actually on you bought a Frodo and Sam Precon. It's got white in it. I would be like, buy a Teferi's. If the deck has blue in it, you want to put a Narset in it. 100% of the time. You have a black deck, you want an Orcish Bowmaster. You want that in your elf deck, you want it in your Frodo and Sam deck, like you need it. So yes to both of these cards, absolute game changers. Consecrated Sphinx, I know that card anywhere because I use it in all of my blue decks.
Well, there you go. Flying, whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards.
So again, these other people are drawing cards. You can draw 2 every time they draw a card. Massive card draw engine. It's also a big creature and a flyer. You build a blue deck, like you're working on your otter deck, which is blue and red. I don't care if this is an otter or not. You could pretend that the otters fly around on this thing. Like you put this in your deck.
Justify it how you need to.
You got it.
All right.
Necropotence.
Yeah. Skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library face down, put that card into your hand at the beginning of your next end step.
Yeah, so basically it's just going to help you get a ton of card draw, Joe.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to tap it, right? You can just use this again and again and again and again. Card draw in Commander is king. So yeah, an absolute game changer. This is one I made the argument from the start. This should be on there. So it's good they added it.
All right, Deflecting Swat.
Ooh, one of my favorite cards.
If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability.
Yep. So you go to take my whatever off the board. I can redirect it to something else. It's like kind of like a counter spell, but not really. Works really well. But the key to this card is you're going to watch my mana if you're a smart player. And you're like, oh, Bobby has no mana to tap. He can't counter this. I'm playing this card. And then I hit you with a Deflecting Swat. There's a series of these cards. Deadly Rollick is one of them that are just super powerful because I can always have something in my hand that you think I'm not a threat, but I got something. So, yeah, Deflecting Swat needed to be on this list.
All right, the next 3 up. Gamble, Crop Rotation, and Worldly Tutor.
Right? Gamble and Worldly Tutor, 2 insane tutors. I said this to you, tutors are the bread and butter of Commander. You gotta, how many times have you won by tutoring out a Craterhoof Behemoth?
That's like how you win that game.
Right? In fact, I think with your out deck, the first card I told you to buy was a Worldly Tutor. Like it just makes sense. And you put a couple of other tutors in that deck too. Natural Order. What's the one, Summoner's Pact, I think you put in, right? Like you want tutors in your deck. Worldly Tutor is an insanely powerful tutor. Gamble is a insanely powerful tutor, especially with graveyard synergies. So great cards. And then Crop Rotation, a great piece of mana ramp. And in a competitive game, if you can ramp up the mana really fast, you can get a jump right on your opponent. So crop rotation needs to be there as well.
Yep.
I like this list so far. It's pretty good.
The Seedborn Muse.
Another
Untap all
one
tournaments
that's in
you
your lateral
control
deck.
during each other player's untap step. Like, yeah.
Just keep untapping everything and pinging people with lateral. Like Seedborn Muse, you use it with lateral, you use it in the Commander deck. I love anything that untaps my stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just noticing now, I'm actually reading through the list, like, yeah, this is most of my elf deck. Oh, here we go again. Natural Order. As an additional cost, cast this spell, sacrifice a green creature, search your library for a green creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And I have won games with this card as well.
So basically, when we built your elf deck, now a bit of background. Joe's played Dungeons and Dragons for like 9 decades. Hosted all kinds of game nights. I feel like you own, I'm not just played, I feel like you own every tabletop game ever. Like, I think if someone went to your basement, it would be like they walked into like a fully functioning game store. Am I close on that?
You're not far off.
Okay. And I got you into Magic, and the first deck we built you was an elf deck, and surprise, surprise, well, you just said all these cards are on there. So I'm patting myself on the back that I actually know how to play Magic the Gathering and Commander. But yeah, it's like, Joe, buy a Natural Order, buy a Seedborn Muse, buy a Worldly Tutor, go buy a Cropper. Yeah, so yeah, basically, there we go.
All right. Next up, Food Chain. Exile a creature you control, add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells.
Great way if you have a creature deck to get stuff out early and to start cheating stuff out, Joe.
Yeah.
So again, super powerful card, especially if you're trying to pay the casting cost to something big.
Yeah, for real.
So like, just as a general rule of thumb, anything that helps you card draw, anything that helps you draw cards, usually those two things are really good in Commander. Mana ramp and card draw. Like, you just can't get enough of it. So.
All right, next up, Field of the Dead. So Field of the Dead enters the battlefield untapped. You tap it to add 1 colorless. And whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
You know what I just realized? I'm currently working on upgrading a precon. Eternal Might from Ether Drift with Temid. It's a zombie deck, and I just realized this is a card I need. I have it in all my other zombie decks, but I need this card because it creates a lot of tokens, especially in a game like Commander. And if you look at Joe, and I've got the cards here, but like, just as an example, I'm looking at the lands because I just actually started upgrading this precon, right? I put it in sleeves, and now I'm going to upgrade it. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. There's 27 different land types in this deck. That's the precon from Wizards.
Yep.
So when you're playing in Commander, rarely do you have, I mean, unless you're playing a monocolor or a two-color, like, and there's no reason for it, you're going to have a bunch of different land names. And so if you can, at this point in the game, constantly just bring out a zombie token, great card. Great card.
All right. Then we get into cards not changed.
Oh, wait, there's a couple more to add to this list, Joe.
All right. Let's see what we got.
We have Mishra's Workshop. Adds 3 to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells.
Yep.
Super, super powerful in an artifact type deck. And actually, I say artifact type deck, but most decks have a lot of artifacts now. So, super powerful card. I agree with that 100%. We have Aura Shards. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Oh, you need to put that in your Frodo and Sam deck. I forgot about this one.
Not the
now
same thing.
You can just, again, I've told you this before, artifact and enchantment removal.
Yeah.
Super, super important. So that's a super good one. Notion Thief. If an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they would draw at each of their draw steps, instead that player skips that draw, you draw a card.
Well, there you go.
Auto include any black, blue deck ever, put a Notion Thief. It is super powerful. A lot of people play with card draw. They draw extra cards, you draw extra cards. Okay, great. And the final one, Joe, intuition's on that list. We talked about that earlier, right? And humility. All creatures lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1.
That hurts just reading that.
That hurts. That's a mean. People talk about oppressive. This is my argument though against this banned list stuff. Like this just ruins your day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like there's cards like this that just shut everybody down. They're called stacks pieces. Like talk about unfun. Someone just plays like a stack. I'm actually building one where it just shuts. It's not even designed to win. It's just designed. It's Grand Arbiter Augustine, and it's white and blue cards that are just designed to counter other people and shut the game down. Like I'm just going to make this as boring as humanly possible. So there we go. Those are the Game Changers. So those were, they actually do a really good job on the website, Joe, of talking about why they included all these cards. We could have easily read their stuff. And they talk about why these cards were included. And then they go through and they talk about cards that weren't included on the Game Changers list, right?
Yeah.
Farewell, super powerful card. It's a board wipe, but it's not asymmetric, so that's not on the list. We've got Alms Collector, Mana Drain, Mystic Remora, Force of Will, Grave Pact, and Dictate of Erebos. Necro Dominance is another one. What else is there, Joe? Craterhoof, which is okay. Great. Next up.
Great Henge.
Great Henge, another great card. High casting cost, but I love it. Oh, Court of Calling.
Green Zenith, Court of Calling, and Finale of Devastation.
All great cards for your green deck.
Tooth and Nail.
Yep, another great card.
Soul Ring.
Obviously.
And that's the last one they list.
I remember you asking me, you're like, how is Soul Ring not banned, but Mana Crypt is? And I'm like, I don't know. So those weren't included. But here's what I want to talk about before we kind of wrap up here, Joe. The unbans are one thing, but adding all these extra game changers, this is now going to really put a hard definition on the bracket system.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
I was thinking the same thing.
There was a lot of these green cards that you had. Remember I said we built your elf deck? And I'm going to actually pull it up. And we'll put, I wonder if they actually updated it now. Have you checked Moxfield at all?
I'm looking right now. Bracket info. Oh, yeah. It's updated.
Okay. So here's what I'm talking about, right? And we'll put a link to this deck in the show notes. But Joe, you now have 6 game changers.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas before, you only had a Bolus's Citadel and Ad Nauseum. You had 2.
Yep.
So I did a great job. Dude, I am a master builder. Like, who's the master builder from the Lego movie? Who is that guy? Morgan Freeman? That's like me.
Yeah.
With Commander. But we had a crop rotation in there. We had a Worldly Tutor in there. We had a Natural Order in there. We had a Seedborn Muse in there. Like we did a really good job building this deck. But I told you
what was in the bracket system? I don't know if you remember offhand, like how many game changers you're allowed.
3.
Because it says I have 6 and I'm still bracket 3 upgraded. So
they haven't updated that yet. Is my guess. Unless was there part of this announcement that they're allowing more game changers per bracket level? That's my question.
Guys,
I actually wonder that now.
To think about.
Right? Were there changes to the bracket system? I have no idea. But this does, Joe, define the bracket system better, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think,
Because
I mean, even it says in here that there's such wide changes and it's taken time to trickle out and kind of be adapted. So, you know, we'll see. Maybe that just has yet to be defined.
But we did talk about this. My guess is Moxfield is not updated. So if you're looking at your brackets, don't panic. But we talked about this before. What's the difference between like a 3 and a 3.9? And they actually address this in the bracket write-up. They say something in the literature of this article. I read it this morning. That is there a difference between like a 2.5 and a 3.5? Like, should we have midway brackets? And so what this Gamechangers thing does that I think actually, no pun intended, changes the game completely. It firmly defines the bracket system.
Yeah.
Because we talked for a while. I said, we're building you a 3 technically, but it plays like a 4. Because you've got all these extra cards that I think should be Gamechangers in there. And you're kind of being that guy.
Yeah.
Like you're building a 3, but you're building a 3 that's not in the spirit of a 3. Like a 3 is meant to be, there's only 3 Gamechangers. We loaded you up so you can beat any other 3 on the planet. Like that's not in the spirit of what you're trying to sit down with people and have a fair game. Like you are the proverbial bad actor. Right? Like when you're building a 2.
I didn't make the rules and I'm not breaking the rules.
Right?
That's all I got to say.
That's what people will do. They'll point to their they'll point to their Moxfield, their Architect, and say, well, no, it says I'm a 3, I'm a 3. Meanwhile, everyone on the table hates you because you win every turn. And you've seen your Architect's not losing to too many people, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the introduction of these Gamechanger cards and adding to that list, what you're doing is you're making a clear separation between 2 and 3 because you can't have any Gamechangers in 2. So now you got to take all those out of your deck. You're also making a clear separation between 3 and 4 because in 3, you're only allowed 3 Gamechangers. In 4, you're allowed unlimited. So like you just got, well, now you're kind of like, you got a choice to make. You got to remove some of these cards now, or you got to just go ham on Gamechangers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I'm glad they did this because now I feel we always knew what 1 was. 1 is like exhibition, fun, gimmicky. 2 was like your standard pre-con. 3 was kind of competitive. 4 was ultra competitive. 5 was like the holy grail of whatever. But like, I feel like there was a lot of, between 2 and 3, there's a lot of gray area in there. Like, where do we sit?
If you think about it, like a lot of people who were playing like bracket 2 decks might have had some of these new Gamechangers in there. Well, they're not a 2.9 anymore. They're a 2 because they got to cut those out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, I would say it a different way. You're either now a 3. Or you got to cut them and you go down to a legit 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I will tell you, I can't think of a pre-con that had, let's look at the cards they added. I can't think of a pre-con, which is supposed to be the guide for a 2. I can't think of a pre-con, Joe, and I'm looking back at the list. I can't think of a pre-con that had an intuition. I can't think of a pre-con that had an Orcish Bowmasters. I can't think of a pre-con that had a Narset. I can't think of a pre-con that had a Teferi's Protection or a Humility. I can't think of a pre-con that had a Necropotent or a Deflecting Swat or a Gamble or a Worldly Tutor. Like these cards, they weren't appearing in pre-cons.
Right.
So again, it's a sharper definition. So the big news of the day, we had 5 cards unbanned. Not a big deal, really.
Not really.
Kind of a fizzle.
Nothing earth-shattering there. Yeah.
But this year, these Gamechangers that were added to the list, a much firmer definition of the Gamechangers bracket system. So I'm actually in agreement of that. I told you since the start these should have been Gamechangers. Man, I should have put out a video. What do I think should be added to the Gamechanger? I actually thought there was a whole new bracket coming today, to be honest with you. But this kind of fixes that problem. And as much, and I want to end the show with this, Joe, as much as I think they should have unbanned everything and given me my bracket 6 dimension X, I can play whatever I want. That's me. I can still do it in my play group.
Yeah.
And I do really respect and understand the need to move slowly.
Yeah.
We just had a big change with the bracket system. They just took over the format. And maybe next year we'll get a couple of more unbans. And next year, a couple of more unbans. And they didn't ban anything, which is great.
Yeah.
So maybe over the next 3-4 years of the landscape, I'm patient. I've been in this game for 30 years. I can wait 5 more. More and more stuff will start to get unbanned. So we had some unbans. We had some game changers. The bracket system has changed because of the game changers. And there we go. That's the big news in the Magic the Gathering universe today. And it looks like for at least the next year, Joe, Commander is going to be super stable. They said no other changes are going to happen unless they have to have an emergency unban because some card comes out that's just insane.
Yeah.
So I want to know what you think about the unbans. Joe wants to know what you think about the unbans. Put it in the comments below. And put what you think about the Game Changers list too, because I think sneakily that's the biggest news of the day.